Today's video will be a healthy habits video where I share with you how I make drop biscuits and gravy. You may remember this clip from my family food journal video, and here are just the biscuits and the gravy that I'm going to make today. And they're really soft and still hearty and filling and just really yummy. So we'll start with the drop biscuits. The ingredients we'll need are very simple. They're actually versatile, and I'll share more on the blog. But for today, I use 2.5 cups of oats, 1 cup of corn flour, 3/4 cups of oat flour, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of energy baking powder, 1 cup of water, 1/2 cup of almond milk, and about 1/2 cup of oil. Now make sure you preheat your oven to about 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Starting with the oats, just pour all of that in there. And then you're going to add your corn flour. This is organic, which is even better. And then oat flour, which is basically blended oats. You can just put it in your blender. That's what I did that day. And then my sea salt, baking powder, and I'll share more about why I use energy baking powder in the blog. You can check that out there. But then you're just going to mix it up, and get your dry ingredients mixed together first so that they're well distributed with each other before you add the wet ingredients. So now you're adding water, and then your almond milk. You could use any other plant-based milk that you like. And then the oil. You actually don't even have to use oil if you prefer not to. You can use a lot less, or you can substitute them with other things like zucchini and applesauce and things like that. Or you can even just add more water and more milk instead of the oil. And that information will be on the blog too. So now you're just going to mix your wet ingredients into the mixture of the dry. Mix it. And your consistency should look something like that. So now you're going to take out your baking pan. You can lightly oil it if you would like to. And you'll need a big spoon. And you're just going to scoop and scoop until the spoon is about pretty much full basically. And there's a nice little mound on it. And you'll drop it on your pan. Now make sure your hands are cleaned and washed, of course, as you might need to use your fingers to just help get everything off of the spoon. And these are drop biscuits, so they don't have like a perfect cookie cutter kind of, shape. So you're just dropping it on, but you might want to mold it a little bit with your fingers so that they're not crumbling all over the place, that they have a little shape to them so they're easy to grab. And you just continue that process. As you can see, they're all not exactly the same or anything, but that's the general shape that they'll be if you use a pretty big serving spoon. Or a medium-sized serving spoon, not too big. And we'll just speed it up, and you can just see the whole process, just scooping and dropping, and like gathering any crumbs that fall to the side together with the rest of the biscuits. And they look something like that. Now make sure you gather up all those fragments that nothing is lost, and that's what your pan should look like. We're using a pizza pan that day. And then you plop it into your oven and you bake it at 350 degrees for about 20 minutes or until lightly golden. Now time for the country style gravy. While that's baking, you can start making your gravy. Now for your ingredients, you'll need 1/2 cup of warm water and a little bit more for later. Then 1/2 cup of raw cashews, 1.5 tablespoons of onion powder, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, we have non-GMO, and then 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt, or a little bit more according to your taste, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, and 2 or 3 dashes of coriander or cardamom. Now, coriander and cardamom are just spices, and you can either mix them together and do the 2 or 3 dashes, or do like a couple dashes of each. It's up to you. It's just a nice extra flavor. So now grab your blender and pour in your water, then your raw cashews, onion powder, and then your cornstarch, the sea salt, and the garlic powder. And there's no particular order actually, just add them all in there. And then your dashes of coriander or cardamom, or your mix of both, is up to you. I just like the flavor. And you blend everything together. Now there are other alternatives for this recipe, and I'll share that on the blog. But now you'll see the consistency is really kind of chunky, but it's, a bit more blended. And now you can add about 1.5 cups of water. You can add a little bit more or less, and it will affect how thick or thin your gravy is. And just blend it until it's nice and smooth, and pour it into your saucepan. Then you want to have a medium heat or flame setting on your stove and just stir it continuously. Stir, 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 stir. Stir, stir, stir. And what's going to make it thicken up is that cornstarch. That's a nice thickening agent. And as you can see, it's starting to thicken as I kind of scrape the bottom there. You can kind of tell it's thickening up a bit. And we're just going to keep stirring and keep stirring. And you'll see it's getting a bit more thicker, or a bit more thick. And now it's really thickening up here. And it looks so good. And again, you can do everything to taste. You can add a little bit more salt. It all just depends on your taste and if you're trying to watch your salt intake and so forth. And you just keep going until it's nice and thick and creamy. And that's what the consistency should look like. And at this time, your biscuits should now be done. So that works out really nicely. And you'll see that they should be lightly golden brownish. And they're so good, especially when they're nice and hot right out of the oven. Here are the biscuits. You can have them with breakfast, you can have them with lunch, you can make it sweet or savory. I love putting the gravy on top, and even honey. Oh, it tastes so good with honey. And you can see the texture is like really soft, but it's still like thick and not kind of dense, but not too dense. It's still crumbly and fluffy, and it's so good. So I hope you all enjoy, give thanks to the Lord, and enjoy your drop biscuits and gravy. Let me know if you try it out. And don't forget to check out our blog. The recipes can be found there along with different ideas for making substitutions with these ingredients so it can fit your lifestyle. And did you know that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost? God has bought you with a price. Therefore glorify Him even in your body. Join me as we seek to find wholeness through faith in Jesus Christ, mentally, spiritually, and physically.